thought about something, and here it is. This is Timer, a sci-fi short story. Prepare to dream.
Prepare to dream.
Timer. Written by Lars. Narrated by Sean Eric Hoffman.
Beware of time.
What would you do if you had the power to travel through time? This question is not to be taken lightly. We all think at one point or another in our lives that answering this question would be easy. We'd say that we'd go to the past to fix something, see something, or someone. At times, we'd think we'd go to the future to see what would become of this world and where our lives have led. But when you get the opportunity to really travel through time, all the above questions take on a whole new meaning. That's what happened to me when I found the device, or rather when it was given to me. A young fellow, probably in his mid to late 20s, approached me from behind as I made my way home. His hair was messy, his face dirty, and he looked like he'd crawled out of a swamp, which wasn't exactly possible since there were no swamps nearby. He said something to me that at first I didn't understand. I wasn't sure if he was speaking a different language or if it was even a language at all. I paused and looked at him. The fellow blinked a few times, fiddled with what I believe was a VHS-looking thing, only much smaller, then spoke again. "Please," the fellow said, reaching into his pocket and pulling out a small cylindrical device, no larger than the palm of my hand, with a red button on top and some dials at the bottom. Take this with you. I don't have much time left, but this needs to live. I hope you can make better choices than I have." "What is it?" I asked hesitantly. "It's a time machine," the fellow said, shaking his head vigorously. I snorted. "You don't have to believe me," said the young fellow. "You can try it for yourself. Take it now. I don't have much time." "How is it that you don't have time? You've just told me that you have a time machine. By that account, you should have all the time in the world." "These things you will only understand if you take it and use it. If you won't take it, then I must find someone else." I've known liars in my life. People who lie a lot, people who lie a little, and this young fellow in front of me wasn't one of them. He was telling the truth. So I extended my hand and took the time machine, and to my surprise it was a lot heavier than I thought. So much so that it nearly knocked me off balance. "Whoa," I said. "Grip it tight when you use it," said the young fellow. "No matter how hot it gets, don't let it go, or else you'll be stranded somewhere in time." That's when I noticed the young fellow's right palm. Burn marks scarred his skin. "It is well worth it, my friend," the young fellow said. "What is this thing?" I thought as I inspected it closely. Right under the red button it had the words Avum Cosmos, and right underneath that, the word Timer. Toward the bottom above the knobs there were small windows. Each window displayed a different set of numbers. 1 through 24, 1 through 31, 1 through 12, and 1 through 3,650. "The first from the bottom is the hour," said the young fellow. "The second is the days of the month, the third is the month, and the fourth is the year. Set it to where you want, and the machine will take you. Then press the red button. Make sure to Google where your coordinates are now in comparison to where you want to be, or else you might end up in Russia or something." "Google?" I asked. "What's a Google?" "What year is this?" the young fellow asked, panic spreading across his face. 1985, I said quickly. "You don't know? I thought this thing takes you where you want to be." "It does. That was my mistake. Then you must go to a library or find someone with a computer and figure it out before you press the red button. Got it?" I nodded, my confidence in my lie detector skills faltering slightly. "I must go." said the young fellow, turning around before breaking into a full-on sprint. "What is your name?" I yelled after him. "You must not know." Part of me wanted to throw the time machine away, but the larger part, the curious part, wanted to see what all of this was about. After all, what's the worst that could happen? Side note: whenever you ask that question, make sure you answer it. I went home to my pretty depressing single-bedroom apartment that needed cleaning. My cat wasn't there, which made things even gloomier than usual. I had often regretted moving here. I should have listened to my parents when they told me I wasn't going to like it. But they had been wrong so often that I was sure that they were wrong about this town, too. I was still new here, and to tell the truth, I was a little homesick. What I would give to see them again. At the time, I wasn't thinking straight. There was something intoxicating about the idea of time travel. Here was this small device that could fix all my problems. If this machine really worked, if this machine was real, the possibilities were endless. At first I thought about going back just a few weeks to tell myself not to make the move. Then I thought about going back a few years and placing a bet on the 1979 Pittsburgh Pirates World Series victory. I'd be set for a while. No one saw that coming. But then, why go back when I could go forward? I grew up reading analog, science fiction, and fact, and all those fantastic stories about traveling through space and meeting alien civilizations. We had gone to the moon a few years back, and the Atlantis shuttle was about to launch next October. I would be lying if I said I wanted to go to the past when, more than anything, I wanted to see just how far we'd come as a species. I wanted to see if we had achieved travel between worlds. I had to see it. I must see it. So after using the restroom, eating 2 slices of leftover pizza from my fridge, washing it down with a delicious can of Dr. Pepper, and changing as if I were going out, I began to figure out what year in the future I wanted to visit. I moved the dial to 1200, September 1st, 2297, a little more than 312 years into the future. I chose September because I liked its weather. Not too hot, not too cold. Around 300 years seemed like enough time for technology to advance far enough. I held the time machine as my heart raced. I could literally feel it thumping in my throat. I didn't want to second-guess myself, so I pressed the button. The world around me blurred, fully indistinguishable. I couldn't see anything that was happening. It was all too fast. And lo and behold, the time machine, which started to feel more and more like a time machine, began to heat up. I had to make a conscious effort to hold on to it, to not let go. Then it all stopped. And that's when it hit me, the cold. Oh, it was cold. Snow fell all around me, but perhaps the most shocking part wasn't the snow, it was what I saw. Emptiness. No buildings. Well, there were plenty of those seemingly tall enough to touch the sky, but no people. At least none that I could see. It wasn't nighttime, it was noon. An oval, black shape hovered through the streets, floating a foot or two off the ground. "Hey!" I yelled. Nothing happened. Where was I? I moved about, trying to find anything that could identify where I was. But there was nothing. Nothing anywhere. I quickly turned the dials on the time machine back to my time and pressed the button. Nothing. Nothing happened. Dread filled my stomach. What had I gotten myself into? I moved again, this time more desperately than before, and that's when I saw it. Characters on a wall. I had seen Chinese writing before, as well as Korean and Japanese, even Thai. But this wasn't any of those, though it resembled Thai writing the most. It seemed as if it read vertically instead of horizontally. Then my mind blurted out the answer I had been dreading. I was in Mongolia. Realization hit me like a brick wall. I should have checked the coordinates as the young fellow had told me to do. A second black oval came hovering down the street, but this time it slowed down right in front of me. From it, 2 floating spheres emerged, buzzing loudly. I took 2 steps back, which only made the buzzing grow louder. It could have been a buzz, or it could have been words. I didn't know. I didn't speak Mongol. An opening appeared at the center of the floating black oval, and the orbs began buzzing again, cycling through what I now realized were different languages until I finally understood one. Buzzed the orb. I reacted with shock, and they buzzed even louder.
Enter the vehicle.
The orb commanded, sparks flying from its surface.
You're being detained.
I was about to protest, but in truth, I welcomed whatever warmth awaited me inside the vehicle. To my relief, the vehicle, or cop car, I suppose, was perfectly warm on the inside. It was a short ride to the station, but along the way, I couldn't believe my eyes. Floating, gigantic billboards the size of entire buildings advertised what looked like off-world vacations to Venus, of all places. I wondered briefly whatever happened to Mars. There were ads for other types of technology I couldn't even begin to understand. And somewhere in all of those advertisements, I think I might have seen something that suggested we had made first contact with alien life. But I couldn't be sure. When we arrived at the station, they held me in a small room. All my stuff, my wallet, the few dollars and change I had, my apartment keys, and the time machine floated in the middle of the table inside a glass sphere. At first, I waited patiently. 1 hour passed. Then another. Then another. Something was wrong. "Hello?" I called out. "Is anyone there? Hello?" No response. "Hello?" I repeated, louder this time. Still no response. But there was something. Muffled sounds in the distance. I had to get out of there. I began throwing everything I could at the glass sphere, but it wouldn't break. The chair, the table, everything I could move around, nothing worked. Desperate, I started fiddling with the glass orb itself, searching for a button or some kind of release mechanism, but there was nothing. The muffled bangs and noises outside were growing louder. I gritted my teeth in frustration, and suddenly the glass orb opened on its own. The door to the room opened as well, and a dark, tall figure entered. I didn't care to get a good look at it. All I cared about was getting out of there. I lunged for the time machine, grabbed it, and pressed the button. These things, these time creatures, or whatever they are, they follow you once you use the machine. To this day, I don't know what they are, but they haven't left me alone. I don't know what they want, and I don't care to find out. The good news is they're slow. As long as I don't stop moving, they won't catch up to me. I haven't used the machine ever since. And if, after reading this, you're still planning to use it, be warned. You will be marked. It took me a while to figure it out, but before you use it, ask yourself, what would you really do if you could travel through time?
Hey, Nita. What's that?
Oh, nothing. Just this story I found in this retro lip gloss container.
That's a lip gloss container? That's the weirdest lip gloss container I've ever seen in my life.
I know, right? I'm gonna Google it as soon as I get home. It might be worth something.
Attention, said the ceiling speaker. Thrift and Beyond will be closing in 30 minutes. Please finalize your shopping and head over to the nearest cashier. Remember, everything is 20% off today. What a time to live in.
So that came out of nowhere. But that's because I'm still working on Event Zero Origin 2. And the reason I'm still working on it is because I want to give it my all. I want to give it the attention that it deserves rather than publishing something that might not be finished. I need it to live and pass all expectations of all videos that have been on this channel, and that's my goal. In the meanwhile, I do want to put things up here that can still entertain people, but that are easily if that's a word, going than Event Zero Origin. You know, this is Event Zero Origin 2 as well as the Event Zero Origin 1 is a massive project. It's more than 110,000 words, and that's about 9 to 10 hours of reading for the narrators.
It's infinitely complex.
I don't want this channel or community to go to waste. I feel like it has still a lot of untapped potential, and I want to see where this goes.
It's our world now!
So I'm inviting you guys to share, like, and subscribe, but really to share, like, and subscribe. I think I'm just gonna add one more thing, is that I'm not gonna be giving any more dates for stories. I hope that I could still get stories out in a timely manner for you guys, but as far as sticking to a date, I can't do that unless I'm doing this full time. I can't do it full time yet. It's a dream of mine still. So with that, as always, thank you for watching and listening. Peace. So what do you think?